Well, it's not so much, it's this actual state. I mean, as far as the government, I mean, the state is part of the government, but the problem that I have with the government is that everything it does is achieving through coercion and force and violence. And not only is that not peaceful, like, for example, like you're talking about taxation. Taxation is that's like what everybody says, but it really is like, if you don't pay taxes, like, you're gonna get put in a cage.
But
That's
what I mean by they got the big stick. So
they do, and that's kind of the point. That actually is a really good point of agorism, is it's not the idea of some sort of radical revolution or any sort of, violent retaliation, but it's more of kind of a peaceful involution, because it's trying to take each little individual fractal. Because why does the government even have this power to be violent? It's only because we are complacent and we let them. But the more that we can empower ourselves through being peaceful and, feeling this, underground economy, not just as far as like financial transactions, but I mean any sort of economic action, whether it's teaching ourselves or, being self-sustainable. But like, just little things, when more individuals start to do that and we start to kind of work together rather than, just let the state do what it does. But I'm sorry, I'm getting on tangents here, but the more that we can do that, the less power they have, because it's mostly just fear that we give to them, that we allow them to use violence to manipulate us. But we really do live in the time of the self-actualized entrepreneur, and there's so many resources available. Kind of to go back to what we were saying. I'm sorry.
in your mind, are these small actions scalable? Meaning, do you elevate to the level of a target if you're very, very successful at whatever you're doing on a small scale personally? If you want to grow that and turn it into a business, then you get visible, and then the hammer. Now the hammer comes out, right?
Right.
That's what you and Derek are doing.
Really work is as if it was a movement, and there were many, many, many people doing as you described. I think it's great. I think the government, quite frankly, sucks, but unfortunately, are you listening, NSA? I agree. They're not good guys. They're not good guys, but unfortunately, they do have the control now, and until we unite, maybe with a program like this, with a philosophy like this, and a lot of people come together and they start to create, because really what most of it sounds like to me is just doing business under the table, so that you don't have to pay taxes and you can be independent. That's what it sounds like.
It's like a free market means to a free market ends. It's like slowly that power.
I love it, Fran. It's, to me, a little bit more than that. See, when I was watching it, it's not just saying, there is a free market, but it's not just saying, I'm going to get away from said entity. It's saying, hey, what can I as an individual contribute? And when I start stepping out of this box, then I can see, I can contribute to this. Maybe I can teach people about this. Maybe I can teach people about how to engage in public speaking so we can improve communication through the economy. How can I teach people a new skill, and how can I gain new skills for myself from other individuals? That's what really excites me about it. And to answer your question, James, I guess I could, you could explain more about the conscious resistance, what they're doing, because they're really starting a movement. And to me, not like a lot of people think revolution, they're like gonna put on like masks and throw bricks at things, which that never fixes anything. But for a real revolution, to give you an example, what I think is like Steve Jobs. I'm gonna put a computer in every home. And that's why we're all here. And I think the conscious resistance, maybe you can explain a little bit about it.
An example of the real revolution that's going on now is crypto.
Yeah.
I mean, that's people just saying, sorry, I'm not going to do it the old way. I'm going to do it the new way. Apparently there's some law they're trying to pass, or they've been talking about, where they're going to fine you if they find that you own crypto or something. The government, in other words, the government's trying to pass a law that gives them control, to Reagan's point.
But using cryptocurrency is actually a really good example of agorism. It's like all of these kind of ideas of, again, being more independent and taking away the pillars of power that they use to control everyone. Because of course the monetary system, that's one of the main ways that they kind of, I guess you could say, enslave us with the national debt and the way that they do inflation. But with Bitcoin, it's really, they say like, can government regulate Bitcoin? Really, Bitcoin is going to regulate government.
That'd be cool.
And no, I was going to say, you can create your own cryptocurrencies now. Like, let's say you're like, okay, because some people had an issue with Bitcoin. I did, because the transaction fees went. So I actually started looking for things, and now I got into Ethereum and Dash, which I don't want to get like too into like, okay, crypto, because maybe that can be another conversation. But the whole idea is that I found out I can create my own cryptocurrency, and you can now. So interestingly enough, you can create your own cryptocurrency, and if you have people behind the idea, like I say, oh, I want to create a cryptocurrency around cat memes. Someone say that's crazy. Well, someone create a cryptocurrency around Dogecoin. So you can create ideas and coins around those ideas, get a community to back it, a forum, and then all of a sudden you have your own economy. Sorry, go ahead.
It's like that decentralization process. I really think decentralization is kind of the engine for moral progress, because when you just have too much power concentrated in one thing, it tends to corrupt, of course. But when you have more decentralization, you have more options. You have, okay, I don't like this, I'm going to create my own. And then if you do a better job of it, again, the free market has a built-in feedback system. So naturally, if you're providing a better, more peaceful service more efficiently, you're gonna be the winner there. Whereas in the state, there's no competition, so that's kind of why it gets so stagnant.
Yeah, like if I had a monopoly on masterminds, it would be boring, because I could sleep here, I could eat on camera, I could do weird things all the time. I do that anyways, but I could just be a total weirdo on camera.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah.
Thanks, Fran. You're always here for positive reinforcement. But no, think if I had a monopoly on masterminds, it would be boring. But I have to put some good content, or else you guys will say, I don't like this Kareem guy, I'm never coming back. And then the whole
YouTubers.
and just the whole idea of getting that
There's
monopoly.
Competition. It's a pretty competitive market.
I agree. It's the whole idea of, if I have a monopoly, it's boring.
Well, I think in today's economy, it says if you don't have money, you can't make money.
Well, I disagree. I think it's, if you don't have money, you can find a way. See, money is a measurement. It's like inches. Like, everybody here knows the Great Depression, right? Well, here's an interesting thing. If you've ever listened to Alan Watts, he has these things that I just sit there and I'm like, how did he think about that? In the Great Depression, there was no shortage of natural resources, iron, wood, food. There was no shortage of anything else other than money. Now, money's a unit of measurement. Money's not wealth. Like, if I said I'll give you $1 million, I'll give you a $200,000 house, and you could only pick one of them, and I'm literally saying $1 million has no value, then you'd obviously pick the house, because what are you going to do with a bunch of paper, other than maybe burn it? But and that actually did happen, I think, in World War I, when they started printing too much paper. But the whole idea is, people had trouble building things. The economy crashed because people lost a unit of measurement. It's like going to a house and saying, I want to build a house. And then someone's like, we don't have enough inches. I'm like, what? We have wood. We have axes. We have the ability to build a foundation. Oh, but we don't have enough inches. To me, that's what the Great Depression was. Because people lost a unit of measurement, but they didn't lose the actual resources, because money is just a measure of resources. So you can still be broke and be wealthy. It's actually one thing I've talked to my business partner about. And that's actually a question to look at, guys. Can you be wealthy without money? In a sense that you never, not saying that you don't have to make any, but is it possible to say you've made a certain point that you have enough wealth to do what you want to do on a day-to-day basis?
In the wellness industry, wealth is good health.
Mm-hmm.
So that you live a long and healthy life and don't have chronic diseases. That you have a prevention program. That's wealth. Because in reality, you can have all the money in the world if you don't have your health. It ain't worth anything if you're bedridden. Can't do anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
And wealth could also be your ability, like what's her name, the Mother Teresa. Her wealth was her ability to give of herself. That was her wealth. Wealth is typically always defined as money, but it's not necessarily money. It depends on your definition, which is different for everybody.
Yeah.
I think I agree with what he was saying. I think wealth is what you determine it to be for yourself, because there are some people that live in abject poverty, but they seem very happy. And if you were to ask them, they would come across as feeling like they were wealthy, even though you're looking at them and go, but you have no money or nothing, or you live in this or that. Whereas other people, have the biggest, and by all means, we look at them as being wealthy, but yet everything else in their life is shambles and a mess, and they're off doing this, that, the other thing, or they're they end up killing themselves or something like that. So I think it depends on how you personally look at it and what you define it for yourself, so that way you can interact with the rest of the world to provide what you have to provide.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of see where you're coming from there, Dan, and I don't think any amount of personal possessions can hold half of the value as to me personally, as to whether or not I'm happy. If you're not happy in life and you have every Lamborghini and jet and $1 billion home, it doesn't make any difference if you don't have friends and you don't have your happiness.
And if you don't know yourself, see, a lot of people will go out and they'll be doing this, doing that, doing this. I see a lot of point of life is just to live and to experience, and not always to try and hit a destination. Like, you guys like music. Is there a specific place a musician has to end on? I mean, I know that helps when I'm playing with my band, but is there a specific place a musician has to end on? There isn't. They go, and a composition, that's what makes a composition great. It goes on and on. It doesn't necessarily have to end. Same with dancing, same with everything. So it comes down to, at least for me, I can't speak for anybody else, my experience has been that I go on a journey and I'm existing, and that can be enough in the moment. It doesn't have to be that I have to get a certain point or a certain thing. Yes, there are goals I have to achieve, but sometimes the meaning of life is to really understand yourself. Because I see a lot of people who maybe achieve all this financial success, but they don't know anything about themselves. Or they are discontent with the life they're living because they've done something else, and they really felt that they'd be happier in A, B, C, or situation. To illustrate this point, while we were talking about, my cousin Bassem came from Egypt, and he said, "Oh, Kareem, you're pretty rich," And I said, "What the hell are you talking about? Like, I'm not on abject poverty, but I don't have tons of money." He's like, "Oh, in Egypt you're rich, considering that you have like a TV and a car and A, B, and C. To them, that's pretty rich. And to people in Mexico and other places I've gone, that's pretty rich because there's a house and a car and a yard." They're like, "Whoa, look at all that stuff." And even people in America who I've talked to who have lived in some rough things, that they get excited when I take them to CVS and they're like, "Oh man, there's soap here and this and that, and I've been away for whatever for so long. They get excited. So money and wealth, you can easily conflate that with something you have to get there, well, just a destination, but you don't have to get to that destination. The destination is knowing yourself, knowing what's in here. Then everything else will come. It's like, I'll end with this. The guy came up to Buddha and said, I want to be happy. And he said, get rid of I, that's ego. And then he said, get rid of want, that's desire. Now you're happy. You can expound upon that.
No, I think it's interesting. Value is definitely subjective. And it's also interesting that even some people, when they have money, like managing money is like one of the hardest things ever. And then that can end up leading them into what you would call poverty, even if it's not financial poverty. Maybe they are buying like dangerous drugs now with their money. And I mean, that's a problem in like really poor neighborhoods, you know. It's not that they don't have the money, it's what they have when they have the money, but I think that's an interesting thing too.
Yeah, you could mismanage it. You could do, I mean, lottery winners, case in point, lottery winners, millions of dollars, they all, I haven't known a lottery winner, maybe there is one, someone's going to like paste the link, but I haven't known a lottery winner to like invest well. I just haven't. And it kind of goes, they didn't really have a passion for it. They're just like, okay, I happen to, get a lot of money at one point. Well, they don't really know themselves. They don't really know what they, is in here. So they're out there saying, I'll buy this car, I'll be happy with this, that. And it doesn't tend to work because, again, money is not wealth. It's a measurement of wealth. But what is the actual wealth to you? What do you consider wealthy? And if you don't have a point for that, or if you don't have anything that you consider wealth, raising your consciousness, in my opinion, is a lot better form of wealth than that. But they don't have an idea of what that is, so they just tend to spend poorly.